Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the very. No, it's not. I almost defaulted to my previous podcast name, the Picking Daisies podcast. I almost said the Very Merry Life Unfiltered. It hasn't been that name in a while, but my brain's not working today. It's been a doozy of a day, but you'll hear about it in a second. I have Ashley with me from Tiny Human Print Co., which I'm super excited about. But Ashley, I'm gonna, before I get carried away, let you introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Kinsella. I am the owner and artist of Tiny Human Print Company. I'm a mom of three. I live in the suburbs of Chicago. And I started Tiny Human when my son was about 1 year old, and he continually accidentally called me the name of his daycare teacher instead of mommy.
Yeah.
So it just broke my heart realizing he spent more time with his daycare teacher than he did with me, all because I worked a full-time job and I hated that full-time job. So I really started this business as a way to kind of create flexibility for my family. And then my son started struggling with very severe anxiety. So working with him through all of that kind of pinpointed my business. So um, he turned 2 at the height of the pandemic. So we've always just kind of pushed off his anxiety as he's a COVID kid,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
He had very severe social anxiety and separation anxiety. That is a result of COVID. He's a COVID kid. But then as he started having physical reactions to his anxiety, he would vomit, he would break out in hives,
Oh,
he would have potty accidents. We
yeah.
realized like this is deeper and we can't, and if we're passing it off as a COVID kid, that to me told me that it's a learned trait
Yeah.
almost, right? So we started working with him and just talking about confidence and choosing to be brave. We would say affirmations in the mirror. I would make him high five himself in the mirror while he's saying these affirmations. So that's kind of what is represented of Tiny Human now. I want kids to just radically love themselves because after going through all of that with my son, and he's a totally different kid now. Now he's in kindergarten. He is the class clown. He wants to be the entertainer. His single goal is to make everyone around him laugh
Yeah.
versus before he was literally shaking behind me, just so
Oh,
scared.
yeah.
So that's what Tiny Human represents, is
I
just
love it.
trying to,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love it.
raise
That's
kids
I
to
that's
love
a
them.
it's a big thing here. I've talked about it before, but confidence is one of the best gifts you can ever give your kid. It's
Yeah.
one of the because it is a gift. It is confidence is truly, truly a gift. And it's a hard gift to maintain, obtain, all of those, sustain, it's just all of those. But I know for me, like I talked about that growing up as a kid, and I had like I was friendly and I was social. Like weirdly enough, I was always like the kid when I was growing up that was shy around others. But if you asked me to do I remember like in middle school be trying to be like the school president at the time, and I remember they had a huge assembly and everyone had to say a speech in front of the entire school, and in like 6th grade, and I loved that. Like I loved doing things like that because it was almost like a way that I could break from like the inner
Hmm.
nervous Mary and do stuff like that. But like I struggled with confidence as just like a person, and it impacted, and I say this all the time, the reason why is it impacted my choices that I made as I
Mm-hmm.
was getting older, the people I hung around with, the influences that I allowed into my life, and
100%.
the decisions. So it's like if we want to start like I think sometimes we think about restricting kids and their behaviors because we're afraid of what those behaviors can create. But we do that so harshly that we create this lack of trust in who they are as a person. And that's
Yeah.
confidence.
Yep.
So if we build that up, then our kids hopefully will make wiser choices because they are firmly solidified in who they are, type
Yeah.
of thing. So that's like such a strong pinpoint for me.
I feel like
Because
confidence has to be like intentionally taught
yeah, it
and
does.
intentionally applied.
Yeah.
Because when you think about toddlers, they think so highly of themselves. Watch what I can do.
Yeah.
And they're just over the moon to show you anything. But then as we grow up, it's like we learn to hide ourselves a little bit differently.
Hmm.
And to your point, trying to parent in a certain way, when we limit or when we try to parent who they really are. Like
Yeah.
my son, I swear he has ADHD. He is a wild child all over the place, very loud, has to be that entertainer at all times. And
Yeah.
I notice that when I say certain things, and it's not even my tone cannot be mean, but you know, when I say certain things, I notice like his reaction and
Yeah.
it could like crush his little spirit. So I
I
feel like
know.
I've had to like tiptoe around that. But
Yeah, that's how my daughter is. My daughter is like she's very imaginative. So my oldest, she's in kindergarten also, but the way she talks and her world is just color. Like I can just
yeah.
tell that in her head she probably just sees things in like the best kid like light. And sometimes it's like before bed, she'll just go on like tangents trying to like get out of bedtime and she'll go on
Yeah.
these stories. And sometimes like when you've had a long day, you'll kind of be like, okay, enough, like whatever. And you can see it. Like it's like a retraction almost like a physical where you like can tell that she just kind of got knocked down a notch. And I hate that so
Yeah.
much because I'm like, no, I want to hear like you're. It's amazing. I just need you to go to bed. I need
Yeah.
you to go to bed.
Right.
So it's like it's so hard to like find that balance, but just being aware of it is, I think, like that first step in it. And again, I think it's I think a lot of the times too, we that confidence piece is built because of our own fear. Like my daughter, my kindergartner, she really wants pink hair. She really wants pink hair. So I found a
Cute.
temporary conditioner that it distills like just a pigment in your hair for 6 washes and then it washes out. So I bought it for her. And my mother-in-law was over and you could tell that she was kind of like, "Oh my God, like why would you do this?"
Yeah.
And I even someone on Instagram when I shared it said, "Oh, I would love to do this, but I would worry about what others would think." And I'm like, but I think that holds us back. I think sometimes
Yeah.
we limit our kids because we're afraid of what others are going to say about our parenting when they see our kids in that way. So my daughter has pink hair right now. My
I love
6-year-old
it.
has pink hair, and I'm like,
And you
"Go
know
for
what?
it."
She feels so good, and that's what we have to parent on. You
Yeah.
know, if you feel good, you feel confident,
Yep.
you like this. It's little things like that that give them the practice
Yeah.
almost to just do whatever they want to do. Who
Yeah.
cares if somebody doesn't like your pink hair? It's
Yeah.
not their pink hair.
Yeah, that's what I told her because I picked her up from school yesterday. And I said, "So what did everyone think?" And she said, "Well, the girls liked it. The boys said they didn't like it." And I'm like, "You sure they said that?" And they're like, "Yeah, they told me they didn't like it." And I was like, "Well, who cares?" I said, "Do you?"
Yeah.
I said, "Biggest question of all, do you like it?" And she said, "Yeah, I love it." And I was like, "There you go.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. You're
Yeah.
not hurting anyone with your pink hair, so you rock that thing." But
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard, and I'm sure with kindergarten, I just recently talked about it, so that's why I'm glad we're doing this conversation because it's so fresh out of my mouth and in my mind. But I talked about it yesterday, and I shared a reel on Instagram, and it said like, "What word do you say in front of your kids instead of fuck?" And
I
I said,
loved that one.
it's not even my audio, but I used it 2 years ago, and it's because it's me, and that's just what I say. And it said, "Fuck." And people got so in a tizzy about me potentially swearing in front of my kids. And I had responded back to someone saying, that should be the least of your concerns based off of what I have already heard coming out of my kindergartner's mouth and the stories that I've been told from other parents with their kids in my daughter's classroom.
Yeah.
I had a birthday party for her back in December, and all of the moms brought their little girls, and we all stood around the table and we chatted. But the things that were coming from them about their daughters experiencing in the class that Cassidy is like, and I've heard some of these stories from Cassidy, but to hear it from their mouths, hearing that it's a same experience, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on with kindergartners these days? Because it's not like I was warned with kindergarten. I don't know about you, but like I was warned that it could be the start of drama, but that might be because I have a girl in terms of like girls having best friends and like playground
Right.
antics. And that's what I was expecting. But we have had to deal with kids. So far, it sounds like the boys are calling some girls fat and telling them that they shouldn't be eating their lunch. And some
Mm.
girls aren't eating their lunch. Like I've had
At
some of these.
5.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I've like, and that was how I found out about it. It was like one of the moms was saying, like, "Hey, my child isn't eating her lunch. We've been trying to get to the bottom of it because for some reason she will not eat her lunch." And then I found out from another mom who approached me asking if I had heard anything from about a few boys saying this stuff. And I said, thankfully not to my daughter. But I then went to the other girl whose daughter is not eating lunch, and I said, "Hey, FYI, I'm hearing this, so maybe that's like the mystery solved in as to what's going on."
Yeah.
But that or racial things that we've been hearing about, which I'm like, I don't even, that that's coming from home. So that just
Right.
drives me bonkers. Cause no 5 and 6-year-old is thinking about the difference of color. Like,
Right.
I don't even understand it. But, and then like other kids are telling some kids that they should put makeup on so they would have more friends.
Oh my God. See, and this all comes down to when my daughter was born, I had a fat, fat baby. Like she
Ah,
was one of
mhm.
those like perfect, roly, chunky,
Yep. That's all my
super,
kids. Yep.
super fat babies. And it wasn't until I don't know, maybe she was like right around a year where I started noticing the narrative. Like we would always call her fat and always call her chunky. And when she was one, and even though my son was only 2, 3 at the time, you have to correct that right then and there because even at age 2 and 3, if they grow up thinking it's okay to even call a baby fat, then it's okay to call another kindergartner fat and it's okay to call anybody else fat. And it stems down to even conversations that happen when our kids are really little.
Yeah.
And we have to be, not that we need to like swing the parenting pendulum on the way
Yeah.
opposite side because we don't, but I feel like we say so many things that we don't realize the impact that they actually
No,
have.
no, and that's what I said. So, like, even my response video yesterday, I said we have to be intentional with our words. So, like, for
Mhm.
me to say "fuck" in front of my kids or a swear word, any of those things, I drop a shoe and I say, or drop something on the floor and I said, "Oh shit," like,
Yeah,
"Oh
we all
shit,"
do.
whatever. If I were to then turn to my kids and tell them that they are a piece of shit or
Right.
call them a little shit, that is far different because the intent
Yep.
is right there. So what would you prefer? So me not swear at all, but if I drop something or if I'm calling my kid, if I'm not calling my kid a little shit because that's apparently what people are thinking, why is it any so is it better if I call them little dummy? Like like because it's the intent. Like it's the
Yeah.
intent. So is it just the me saying shit part that riles you up because it's just the word, or does the intent of what you're assuming the word is being used for really what's bothering you because that's what it is. And it's
Right.
all words. And that's why I said yesterday it was like it's all words that we have to think about how we're speaking to ourselves, how we're speaking about others.
Yep.
I know for me, like I grew up and I've always struggled with like eating and just my relationship with food and weight and everything has just been it's been a long road and it's better, but it will always be with me. It sucks. But I think I remember as a kid always being compared to my grandma's body, which my grandma was a
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful woman. But anytime they kind of described my grandma, they always used to say that she was chunkier
Hmm.
or thicker. And so when I hear that, then I'm thinking, oh, well, that's the type of body type I got. So that's great. That's not nice. And I thought about that before because even with like my features, there are certain things everyone has something about themselves that we're not like the keenest of. But
Right.
I am so careful not to talk about that because chances are, if your children are yours, they're going to have one of those features.
Yeah.
So if you are going on a tirade talking about your thighs or your nose or whatever it might be, they're going to at some point pick up that that feature isn't liked by you. So if they have the same feature, why should they like it?
Right.
Type of thing. So I'm so careful with that stuff. And it doesn't mean I don't I turn it off that feeling because I think it's impossible to like eliminate that. But I'm very
Sure.
careful as to what I say about myself and about others in front of them.
Well, I almost think it's even okay to a certain extent to say, I don't like this certain thing about me,
Hmm.
but it's nothing that I can change. Or here's what I'm doing to love myself more,
Yep.
or to not fix it, but to, I don't know,
Appreciate it more or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
be a little
Yeah.
healthier or anything like that. Because, when you move through life and you constantly don't call out maybe negative things, or this ties to feelings, and I think it's okay to tell your kids you're feeling sad, you're feeling down, because when we don't, it like sets the bar for our kids so high, because like
Yep.
our we feel like we have to live up to our parents to a certain extent, right? So
Yep.
if we never see our parents struggle with anything, like that bar is so high.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. They have to see that we're human. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. It's like that we're navigating through the likes and the dislikes and the discomforts and
Yeah.
everything, cuz it's so important. It's so important for them to like see it all
Yeah.
in that sense, because I don't know. I think kids assume a lot too. That's a big thing that I've noticed with kids,
Right.
especially young, is they really fill in the gaps. I had a guest on previously, and she was a school guidance counselor, and I told her that there was an interaction that my daughter and I had, and I forget. I now, of course, forget what it was, but I remember my daughter later in the day or something had filled in the blank. She had said something like, "I think you think I'm stupid," or I don't forget what she said. It was either you think I'm stupid or you hate me or something. And it was nothing, like nothing of that. I think it was just a quick exchange type of like little spiff like thing that we
Yeah.
just got into, but it was never closed fully, where we like actually closed the loop of what that argument was about or what that tiff was about. And she filled in the blank. And the girl that I had on that's a guidance counselor said, kids do that. They will fill in the blank. So if they can't make sense of something, they're
Yep.
going to fill it in with their own answers. And sometimes they default to the negative. It's
Yep.
very easy to just default to the negative, and then they run with that. And then that's their, learned experience from it, even if it's not true. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's such a good point. So like, if anything, like if you catch yourself saying something nasty about yourself or just nasty about a situation or using any of that, like take a second, get your thoughts, and then make sure you go and explain that to them, and like your thought process behind it, like help them understand
Yeah.
your brain a little bit more, because it's
Yeah.
hard.
And
It's
this
hard.
is why, that's a perfect example of why it's so important to teach the foundation of confidence, self-esteem, self-worth,
Yeah.
all of that at such an early age. We think that comes on with like school age kids or adolescents. Like this starts happening when our kids are 2, because when they start understanding conversation and when they start filling in the blank, we can set a happier, more positive foundation for them at that early age, to where hopefully, I mean, human behavior and the way that like our brain naturally works, it's like naturally hardwired to like protect ourselves, right?
Yep.
And even protect ourselves emotionally.
Yeah.
But I think that if we're more conscious of building confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, like it's all tied in together at such an early age, like hopefully it can just, I don't know, start to shift, and then they can fill in the blanks with more positive things. Or we're teaching them how to, if they do fill in the blank with something negative, realizing that they're thinking negative,
Yeah.
and have the mental tool set in order to, okay, I'm realizing that I'm not feeling good. I'm realizing that I'm feeling sad. So what do I need to do for my mind, body, and spirit in order to not be like that? Because that doesn't feel good.
No.
And that
Yeah.
goes back to like trolls on social media. Like, how do we raise kids that aren't trolls on social media? It all comes down to confidence and self-worth, because
Yeah.
people who feel good about themselves don't waste their time
No.
commenting all this negative stuff online.
No, well, because they don't waste their time. What I've found with trolls on social media, and this has been like a big topic for everyone listening, like that's been a big thing, because I don't know, it's not just me. Like I have a large social media following, so I get a lot of it. But lately, I feel like it's been tenfold. I feel like it's been times 10. And I've talked to many other creators that are in the space and sharing, and some of them are just it's getting
It's
ridiculous.
scary.
It's scary, and it's hard. And I think the biggest thing, like I've had people reach out when I get, my slew of crap that I have to deal with, and a lot of people are, don't take it personal, and I rarely do, because it's like someone saying I hate your blue hair. And I'm like, well, I don't have blue hair, so I don't know what you're talking about. So it doesn't personally impact me. I think
Yeah.
what personally impacts me is seeing how much nasty is out there. And it
Yeah.
scares me because I'm like, there are so many people just hurting and just wanting to hurt. Like that is what's frightening in the
Wanting to
sense.
hurt. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Where it's scary, where you're like, oh my God, like so many people are really nasty. And the screen unfortunately brings it out. And it's like that
Yeah.
realization that something dark is leaving under people that like just and from what I found, it actually kind of impacts the way I view people in world in society. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, you might be a nice person here in Rite Aid, but how are you online? Like that just makes me always look at them, and I'm like, I don't know about you, but um, yeah, it's hard, and I think it's definitely a confidence thing. It's a hurt people. But from what I've also found is there's a community of trolling, and it
Yeah.
becomes their own source of boosting. They love it and they encourage each other, and it's a form of connection with these other people that are doing it. Like there are some people that have like Reddit pages made of them where these people go on and they cheer on
Yeah, because they think it's funny.
oh yeah, and they love it. They love it. And it's sad. And I don't think it could be cured. I think there's a big podcast that just talked about it and asked, do you think these people can be cured that are like on Reddit and on these pages that are doing it? Like, do you think that is something that could be easily fixed? And I truly don't think so. I think it is something that would require therapy. I think you would need to get into therapy to really handle the
Yeah.
darkness that is taking a hold of you, to really dedicate this time and this effort to like just be nasty. It's awful. It's
So to
awful.
the contrary, do you think we can raise kids that aren't trolls on social media?
Yeah. I think it's going to take a lot of vigilance. I think we're going to have to, I think we just, I'm not there, so I don't want to talk out of turn yet because I always like find myself second guessing things, but it comes faster than you realize. Cassidy, my daughter, my kindergartner, asked for a cell phone for Christmas.
Oh my God.
So it's happening faster and faster, and I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
that's not happening until you're 16. But I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. But you realize how fast this world catches up with kids, where
Hmm.
I think it's going to start. It has to start early. Like for me, like YouTube gone.
Yeah.
YouTube is gone. That is I don't YouTube Kids even. I can't even trust that. Like there's just some things on there that I feel like is just I don't know. I feel like it's rotting their brains. So that way, when it comes to social media, maybe they're going to be like immune to, I don't know, and maybe easier to fall into the trap of it.
True.
There's something I've noticed with YouTube specifically that we're done there, but you realize how fast it infiltrates. And, you know, it happens because of older siblings too. So I think
Yeah.
it's really just going to take a lot of vigilance on every parent's behalf because I said that the other day with our kindergartner. Like kindergarten's been a doozy of an experience. Like 2 months ago, we came out of a department store and I had said to Spencer, because Spencer, my youngest, my 4-year-old, doesn't like to hold my hand in a parking lot, and that's not an option.
Hmm.
So I said, no, you have to hold my hand. I said, because you can get hit by a car and you get really hurt. And my daughter recently learned about what death is. So my kindergarten, so we've been talking a lot about death lately. I think it's like a very interesting thing to her right now.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. It's confusing, but she would say, yeah, Spencer, then you're going to die. I'm like, okay. Well, I was like, well, a
Yeah.
little far there. And I was like, got dark a little quick. And then she said, yeah, Spencer. And then if you got hit by a car and died, I would be very sad. And then I would kill myself.
Mm.
And I literally stopped in my tracks because that's not even something that comes out of my mouth. I can
Yeah.
confidently say that does not even come out of my mouth. I'm a big firm believer as to what comes out of your mouth will come back to you. So I'm like, I'm not going to, I don't even like to say FML anymore because I feel like that's a universal welcome sign to like come FML. So I'm like, yeah, no, but I turned to Cassidy and was like, what in the hell? So I talked to her about it and said that we don't ever talk that way to ourselves. And I brought it up to her teacher, and her teacher thanked me because I was like, I don't know if that's a concern. Like, I don't know if that's something I should be concerned about, that there's a kindergartner that knows what that says and maybe whatever. But it turns out that he learned it from his older sibling. And that's lingo these days. So it's like you realize that it really does come down the chain. And it's,
Yeah.
I think if we have little ones now, we just have to be like that barrier as to like what access they're getting. And there's only so much you can do when you bring your kids to public school and stuff like that
Yeah.
as to what they're being surrounded by. But it's the conversations at home that need to be open enough to allow for what they're hearing to be discussed and then
Yeah. And and
dispersed.
and like thought through, right? Because
Yes.
I feel like so many kids say that as just like a line that they say,
Yep.
and they don't think about it like what those words actually mean. It's just something to say because it's funny, it's trendy, everyone else says it.
Yep.
But like we have to teach our kids to like stop and really think about what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't think the impact, and I think that's with trolling online. I don't think people are really paying attention to the impact of what that is doing, because I think
Yeah.
online, for some reason, when you get the screen, when you get the phone in front of you, the keyboard, they just think that it's like going to outer space. I don't know what happens where they're just
Right.
getting their anger out into the void of social media, but they don't realize that there is a real person on the other end of that that may have just had their entire day wrecked because
Yeah.
of that. Or if you catch someone in the wrong moment, you don't want to be that comment. Like, I always think about that. I always thought about that with do you remember the dancer from Ellen DeGeneres So Twitch?
Yes, God, I was so heartbroken when I
I
heard about
know
that.
but I recorded a video right after he did that on TikTok, more specifically, and I said, because everyone was so shocked by it, and that's how mental health kind of works. A lot of these people that are struggling the hardest are usually the happiest on the outside, because it is
Mhm.
just like it's, they don't want to let anyone in. Totally
Yeah.
understand it. But I said, imagine, like, everyone was so caught off guard, but imagine if, you know, he was moments away from doing what he did and taking his life. And imagine if he opened his phone to social media, let's say something, hoping for a reason to stay. Most people,
Mhm.
I believe, are looking for a sign to stay. Like, no one wants to do that. That is a terrible, terrible thing. I feel so badly for anyone that does that, because it's had to have been their last resort of thinking that was the only way.
Yeah.
And most of them look for ways out of having that be their final option.
Right.
And I just think about that. I'm like, I don't know, but imagine if he'd opened his phone and saw one crap comment, and that was just the final
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle that just broke him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would never want that, possibly even on my conscious, even if I didn't even know that's the impact that I created, but it could be. And that's
Yeah.
what people, I don't think, even realize. And that's what I'm like, you try to teach your kids that, but obviously my kids are so little, so I'm trying to, like, I think it starts small. You show them in person to person. When my son calls my daughter stupid, I'm like, does that hurt your feelings? And vice versa. Like, I think they have to see from experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you also don't want them to, it's hard.
I
It's hard.
know.
It's so
But
hard.
do you follow dad chats on TikTok?
I probably do. Let me look.
Oh my gosh, he is so funny. He had a recent video, and I'm probably going to butcher this. He was talking about, he grew up a cat person,
Yeah.
and his like someone in his family got bit by a dog.
Yeah, I
So
follow
he
him. He's so funny.
he yeah, just always with a coffee in his
Yep.
car, crazy glasses. Um, he grew up afraid of dogs because somebody in his family got bit by a dog.
Yep.
And when he married his wife, she always had dogs and wanted a dog. And as they got the dog and he loved the dog, he realized, oh, and I'm totally going to butcher this, but he grew up thinking one way, and then you never got out of that train of thought
Yeah.
until it's like in your face.
Yeah.
Totally forget where I was going with that. What was your point before?
That it's almost like they don't learn until they experience it themselves, but then you almost hate that they have to experience it themselves.
Yeah. Oh, so he goes off on this part, like, when it comes to like parenting our kids and parenting from emotion, and because sometimes we're so, as parents, especially nowadays, it's like we tiptoe. Are we being too hard? Are we being too soft?
Yeah.
When we try to parent with their emotions and them as who they are as a human being, are we then going too far, and then it's going to like pop something else?
Yeah.
And his whole point was like, I'd rather parent love and emotions versus like being so hard and like the other way. I totally butchered that whole thing. I need to watch that
Let me see.
video.
Let me see if I can find it. Is it recent?
Yeah, let me see. I think he had
Lived experiences don't always have to be lived experiences. That one?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna have to watch it. Let's see. How long is it? 5 minutes.
I like how he's starting to get like a little bit more sentimental.
I love that too. I think people need to do that's another thing. People just need to like show up. That's like my big thing with my page. And so like I love that's why I'm so happy to have you on. But like I love like accounts that just show real life because I feel like we've been
Yeah.
so filtered on social media that
Hmm.
when we see real life for what it is, we're almost like I don't know, we take the rosy colored glasses off and somehow we think that it's a negative thing and we're like, well no, that's just how it's always been. You just had a different filter
Yeah.
applied to it where you're like you're now seeing it as it is and doesn't make it worse. It's just not as like colorful
Yeah.
as what it was sold to be.
And
And
that's what has always attracted me to you. I love how like just easily authentic you are. And for me, like trying to build a business online, for me personally, it's hard for me to show up on social media, even though I want to show up as myself and be true and honest and all of that. It's like there's like a disconnect sometimes in, I don't know, like that vulnerability online. And then it's just like a display for everyone for all of these like
yeah.
negative comments and all that stuff. And I
It's
know,
so weird because I think about that sometimes where I'm like, I don't know how I do it because when I get on my phone, but I'll tell you what, when it's hard for me to get on my phone and all my stories in that manner, it feels like a disconnect. But when I am good on my stories and it's like a feeling, when I get on my phone and I open my phone, I don't even feel like I don't know what happens to me, but I don't even feel like I have my phone in front of my face. I almost personify
hmm,
my social media as being another person I'm talking to. And I
yeah,
almost can see what that person looks like. I don't know how to explain it, but it's very it's maybe it's what my mind has done in order to like get me to be at that comfort level, but it's not always on and you will usually always tell when it's off because I struggle. I haven't even been on today, so it's off right now. But
yeah.
it's like a flip of a switch almost where I'm like, "Oh, okay. Sorry. I feel like I heard someone walking downstairs."
Is anyone home?
No. I
Go
heard like,
check.
like I don't think. Let me just double
Go
check.
check.
I get paranoid about this. Like I get weird about stuff like that because I'm like, we have a dog though. She's not barking, so I would think that would be my first clue. But when you can, it's like the you can almost feel like the pressure of someone stomping their feet, almost like you can
Huh.
tell that that's happening. That's what I just heard.
It's
But
almost like when your babies are infants and you hear them cry, but they're not crying.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I wonder if I just heard that or it's the ghost in our house. So is that or that? Or that. I'm pretty sure we have a ghost in our house that just comes out from time to time. But anyway, yeah, this has been an awesome conversation. I try and keep things like a half an hour, but
Yeah.
I think that this is a needed one. I wish there was answers. Like that's the thing is like and I
Right.
like
I
having
know.
these conversations because if you're listening, if you're brand new to the podcast, I don't have these conversations with people that are going to like there's no black and white answer to any of
Hmm.
this, but I like to show that there are people that are in the trenches treading along with you trying to figure this out because like I think our generation in general with kids now and I've talked about it with I had the media moms on. So these are women that have specialized in media studies with
Oh, yeah.
kids and they're wonderful. And I talked to them about like, you know, fixing this whole thing with social media and we're the guinea pig generation because we
Totally.
grew up with cell phones, but I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 14.
Yeah.
And at the time it was just what is it, Nokia, like
Yeah.
regular, like just
The
flip
slider.
phone. Yeah. Like that. And then it went to like the chocolate, the LG chocolate. I love that thing.
Yeah.
But like we didn't have, I got Instagram when I was in college, my senior year of college. So it wasn't around. Facebook was around and
We
Facebook
had
I looked,
MySpace.
yeah, but even that wasn't like, I don't even remember. I remember having MySpace, but I don't even remember it being nasty. Like I think you just got
No.
on and you posted like your favorite song of the
Yeah.
week. It was like a very easy place to be where there was
Yeah.
nothing too personal about it. And then Facebook came around and I feel like Facebook got a little bit more personal in your statuses. Like I go through my old statuses sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I need to
Yeah.
delete all of these. But
Thank you, Facebook memories.
Yeah. Oh my God. But and then Instagram we didn't get, and then TikTok. Really, for me, I only knew what TikTok was during COVID. That was really because no one in my
Yeah.
age bracket really had it downloaded until pandemic
Yeah.
really
I
came
only had
around.
it like a year ago. And
Yeah.
TikTok land scares me. TikTok is like the wild, wild west.
Oh, see, but I like TikTok. I just don't feel connected over there. I like TikTok
Yeah.
because I feel like it's very shallow. So I'm like,
It
yeah,
is so
what,
shallow.
yeah, what they say to me doesn't really bother me. Instagram, it can be whoosh. It can be
Yeah.
harsh. Facebook too, but that's because they're connected and with one another. But we're guinea pig generation. Like we
Yeah.
haven't grown up long enough to see the implications of what it's going to be like that our kids. I mean, my daughter, my oldest in kindergarten, sometimes she'll like take my phone and she'll record her own videos, which don't get posted anywhere, but she just wants to do it because she's
Yeah.
seen so many videos on stuff. And then again, that's why I'm getting rid of YouTube because it's just becoming nuts. But she'll start and she'll go, "Hey guys, welcome to today's video," and then at the end she'll say like, "Make sure to subscribe for more." And I'm like, "Oh God." And I'm like, "Oh God, all right, here we go." But you think about that, where it's like
Yeah.
she knows what that is, and
Yeah.
yeah,
After
it's
my kids take a picture, they're like, "Can I see it? Can I see it?" Like,
yeah,
we can look at this later. You don't have to look at yourself in the photo that you just took
yeah,
right away every single time. And what it comes down to, because I feel like we're the generation that tries to be more gentle, and
yeah,
but then we second guess, like, are we being too gentle? Like,
yeah.
just go with your gut feeling. Like, this ties back to just like go with
It's
your
common
own
sense parenting.
intuition,
It's common
common
sense parenting.
sense.
Yeah,
Like, teach your
that's all it
kids
is.
what you want to teach. Be conscious of what you say and how you talk to yourself. And sometimes it feels cheesy talking to our kids and being so direct about like talking about feelings and how to help yourself or how to get from a sad feeling to a happy feeling. And
Yeah.
it feels cheesy sometimes, like talking to our kids about that kind of stuff. But we almost have to and just
We
go
almost
with
have to,
whatever
and I feel
feels
like
good.
it's cheesy because it's uncomfortable. And I think it's
Yeah.
because we just weren't taught. So like
Because
that
we're the
would be.
first generation that talks about it.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's a weird thing because we weren't raised like that. I was definitely not raised like that. I was not
Yeah.
raised in an emotional family. I was always
No.
emotional. Like I was just they always said I wore my heart on my sleeve. I always have.
Yeah.
Like I've just been that type of person since day one, but to not have a family that was that way was very
Mhm.
hard. So it's been an interesting thing, but that more than anything just proves to me that it all starts with us. Like it really does.
Yeah.
So like we can think about what we're doing A, B, and C in terms of parenting, but I think my biggest recommendation for anyone listening and even for myself, like I'm saying this out loud for myself, is we all have to sit down and take a deep look at ourselves and what we need. Because if what do we need in order to teach ourselves to come from a negative emotion to a positive one? Like what things do we need to install in our lives so we can model that? Because it's all modeling. That's all it
Yeah.
is. So we can tell our kids A, B, and C, do this, but if we're not doing any of that,
Totally.
then it's a waste of time. So
Yeah.
I think that's the first step is really sit down on us and think about our social media usage, our social media interactions, our day-to-day life and how we're treating others and talking about others and talking about ourselves and taking time out for ourselves to take a break
Yeah.
and once we start there, then we can have a way better grasp on how to teach our kids that. Because
Yeah.
if we don't know, then how the hell are we supposed to teach them anything?
Right. And even like monitoring the conversations that you have with other adults because your kids are always listening.
Always listening.
Always.
Always listening. It's
We love it.
ridiculous the things that that come out of their mouth. Oh my gosh, but it cracks me up also. So awesome. Okay. Well, so for everyone listening, I'm going to link everything of Ashley's in the show notes that we can go and follow her. You can go check out everything with her business and whatnot. But thank you so much for being here because this is a great conversation. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Always.